The future of racing is electric. Frankly speaking, a lot of people believe that gas-powered vehicles have had their days on the racetracks, and it's time to give way for electric vehicles, especially since EVs have some advantages over normal gas vehicles. However, while this may be true, it would do us a lot of good to know that EVs also have some disadvantages. Welcome back to Autotech. Today we'll be diving into the world of EVs and racing. Formula E has declared itself the future of racing. At a time when virtually the entire auto industry is embracing the electric vehicle, it's not considered quite as wild of an assertion, though it was seen as a bit of an oddity when the motorsport first launched in 2014. As electric vehicles race toward the mainstream, technology has been improving rapidly. Car users or racers often tend to be sentimental. They can't seem to get their eyes off the conventional gas-powered vehicle. But let's compare the merits and demerits of both vehicles and let's see if truly EV is the future of racing. When Formula E first launched, the batteries in the cars couldn't last for an entire 45-minute race, hence the driver stopped halfway through and swapped cars for a new vehicle with a full charge. But now, with new technology, the battery can last an entire race. Currently, the third generation of vehicles is being worked on. They will be lighter and faster, and as of today, Formula E cars are still significantly slower than their Formula 1 cousins. And to make their smaller batteries last for an entire race, the drivers will stop and change mid-race. The changes from conventional to electric. Electric cars have existed for a long time. However, they're growing rapidly in significance and popularity these days. Electric vehicle sales in the US have also risen, with an uptick of 60% of EV registration in the US during the first quarter of 2022. They still only make up 4.6% of the overall new car market, but that number will likely continue to climb in the coming years. Electric vehicles as racing cars. In 2014, few experts took Formula E seriously when its teams began racing in Beijing, Buenos Aires, Long Beach, Monaco, Moscow, Berlin, and London, among other cities. Each team fielded 2 drivers and 4 standardized electric race cars. Drivers switched cars halfway through the race, hopefully before the first car ran out of juice. Those quirky rules changed, replaced with 1 car per driver and open design, meaning that each team had more freedom to engineer unique cars. This attracted more interest from various auto manufacturers. Still, Formula E seemed to be more like a glitzy, star-studded novelty, with team owners including Leonardo DiCaprio and also produced the 2019 Formula E documentary And We Go Green, and Michael Andretti, one of the most successful drivers in IndyCar racing history. Today, Formula E, now officially known as the ABB FIA Formula E Championship, has performed beyond even its founder, Alejandro Agag's expectations, with 12 teams competing. Those teams include racing legends Jaguar, BMW, Nissan, Audi, and most recently, Porsche and Mercedes. Costs of gas-powered cars versus electric cars. The difference in cost between owning and operating an electric car compared with a gasoline car is one of the most important considerations. There are several factors you'll need to think about, including the cost of fuel and maintenance, as well as the overall purchase price of the vehicle itself. Electric cars tend to be more expensive to buy up front. For instance, the electric 2023 Volkswagen ID4 starts at $38,790, while the similarly sized gasoline-powered Volkswagen Tiguan launches at $27,785. An electric vehicle tax credit, including up to $7,500 that can be claimed on your federal tax return, may also help you save on your purchase. Cost to charge electric cars versus fuel gas cars. One of the most apparent differences between electric vehicles and gas-powered or internal combustion engines is that EVs require electricity, and gas cars run on gasoline. The concept of MPG, or miles per gallon, measures the fuel efficiency of gasoline vehicles. Electric vehicles' efficiency is measured in MPGE, or miles per gallon equivalent. While the price of gas varies over time and location, the national average for a gallon of regular gas was $4.19 in August 2022. If a standard gasoline car holds about 14 gallons on average, that means it costs just under $60 to fill up. Fuel-efficient vehicles travel more miles per gallon, meaning they need to be filled up less often and cost you less per mile. The electricity that powers EVs come from a variety of sources. Electricity is produced from burning gas or coal, or renewable sources such as hydropower, wind, or solar. Electricity prices vary depending on whether you charge at home or whether you charge at public charging stations. Maintenance costs. Electric vehicles also tend to have lower maintenance costs, as electric motors and batteries require less routine care than gasoline engines do. They don't require regular oil changes, for instance. Of course, there are still day-to-day expenses such as auto insurance, tire rotations, and brake maintenance that both gasoline cars and EVs require. We've previously calculated that the cost to maintain an EV can be around a third of the cost to maintain an equivalent gas car over 5 years. Fast versus quick. An additional way to analyze the difference between gas cars and EVs is to look at the driving experience. Because electric motors function so differently from internal combustion engines, you might be surprised at how an electric car feels to drive the first time that you get behind the wheel. Generally speaking, electric motors make their maximum torque at 0 RPM. This makes their acceleration feel more instantaneous at low speeds than gas-powered ones. EVs are often quicker than gasoline cars, but they're not always faster. This means that they can go from, say, 30 to 50 miles an hour far more quickly, but that their top speeds are often lower than gas cars. Demerits of EVs include the woes of charging. Just as the name implies, electric cars, it's powered by electricity, but their greatest disadvantages is the problem of charging. An EV road trip requires a network of strategically located charging stations. There are a rising number of DC fast charge stations, especially on the West Coast, which can boost an EV to 80% charge in under an hour. Otherwise, recharging can take 3+ hours, and that can be detrimental when you're trying to complete a race. Range, the traveling distance. These days, EVs are hitting 180 to 250 mile range. That's enough to make any day trips easy, but you're still limited by charging infrastructure. It's also essential to remember that weather and driving habits can impact the traveling distance negatively. If it's a cold, humid day and you're running heat and defrost while driving in the rain, you might watch your range drop by 20%. If you live in cold northern climates, budget for at least a 25% drop in the winter. They're expensive. One obvious fact is that electric vehicles are expensive, and this is mostly because of the battery. Modern batteries need lithium, which can only be mined in a few countries. After the mining process, producing thousands of small cylindrical cells is also not a small endeavor. Then the cost of environmental and crash protection to prevent battery fires must also be considered. The advantages of electric cars. Energy efficiency. More than conventional cars, electric cars are about 85 to 90% more energy efficient. This means that they're using less energy to get you from A to B. Less energy used means less produced, which in turn means less CO2 emissions produced by non-renewable energy sources and the wider energy supply chain. Energy source. It's often claimed by Counting Thomas that electric cars just move the pollution to the power station. It's called the long tailpipe theory. To an extent, this is true, but it fails to note that pretty much all your power stations are greener than internal combustion engines in terms of energy and carbon efficiency. Exhaust emissions. EVs have zero exhaust emissions, which means they don't use any harmful exhaust gases or soot in densely populated areas. Similarly, with coal now becoming a small part of the power mix, very little air pollution at all is released from modern power generation. On the contrary, the exhaust emissions from vehicles with internal combustion engines are a significant source of CO2 that contributes to global warming change and air pollutants that harm people's health at a local level. Electric vehicle for all and sundry. Of course, the biggest barrier to people getting into an electric car is their cost, which is primarily because of the cost it takes to make an electric car's battery, but the good news is that very soon electric cars will be cheaper to buy. With battery costs falling at almost 20% per year, we'll soon reach a point at where a full battery electric car is the same price to buy as a gas-powered car. With the way its battery technology is improving, F1 drivers feel at ease as they don't have to worry about making pit stops during the race, and it's expected that F1 drivers will soon start choosing EVs over conventional race cars. Although opinions on this question are mixed, some believe that they will only slowly creep into racing. Others, on the other side, think most racing cars will be EVs in 10 years. What do you think about these possibilities? we'll be meeting you in the comment section. If you enjoyed watching, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Until next time, thanks for watching Autotech.